If you want to go back to how did this association get started, it's a long, long story. Years and years ago, there were no formal training programs in oral surgery. There were some people who liked surgery and who did it and established reputations. And coming to mind is a man in St. Louis, the name of Leo Winter, who developed a very, very large practice in removing impacted teeth. He developed some special instruments called exolevers, which were crossbar elevators that gave you a tremendous amount of pressure. And so oral surgeons, or those people who limited their practice, flooded to St. Louis to watch him do it. Well, they got to see him operate, but they never got to see the patients post-operatively because they probably were so swollen they couldn't get them into the office. But anyway, that's the way it was done.
In those days, general anesthesia was still quite primitive. There were no anesthesia specialists in medicine. The nurses performed, and they were the anesthesia department. And then they would stick a hook in the corner of the kid's mouth and put the ether in a warm water bath.
Continuing education in those days consisted of what they called wet clinics. An oral surgeon would go and be on a program for a state dental society. He'd sit up in a hotel room. They would get a patient in and give them nitrous oxide, and when they got them well knocked out, they would extract teeth. So that's the way training started.
Menifee Howard was the organizer of our organization. And in 1918, he, by an interesting mechanism of writing to supply houses to find out who the exodontists were around the country, he got a list from those suppliers and wrote a letter to them stimulating interest in forming a society.
You know, we've had many names. We started out as American Society of Exodontists. Then we changed to American Society of Exodontists and Oral Surgeons. Then we dropped the exodonts, became the American Society of Oral Surgeons. And now we dropped the society and added another word. We're now the American Association of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons. So you see, we've come a long, long way. What does it really mean to be a health professional? The right to operate on living tissue, the right to prescribe drugs for a human being, the right to relieve pain and suffering of your fellow man. That sets this group of people apart. They are different than other people because great responsibilities fall on their shoulders because they are treating someone else's loved one. And so they have to treat that person with skill, with compassion, with honesty, and with understanding.
We've had strong leaders. We've had good educational programs that have become even stronger through the years.
Unity in the specialty will be our most important considerations as we look to the future and look to cohesion and identity.
The scope of training today, the scope of our practice today, and the procedures that we can do and how our specialty has evolved over the last several years, and I'm certain will continue to evolve into the future, makes it a very, very bright time for the new oral and maxillofacial surgeon.
The thing that impresses me most is what our colleagues are doing for all of us, to know that you're a colleague of people that are doing this kind of work.
I think the future is very bright. The new trainees are brilliant. We're embarking on new horizons all the time.
I feel that patients are entitled to quality care, that they're entitled to somebody who knows what their problem is and knows how to handle it.